All rise. Superior Court is now in session. The Honorable Jean Mitchell presiding.
There's an allegation that you had a weapon in your waistband. There's an allegation that you possessed a gun last year.
The petitioner indicated that he twice threatened to kill her with a gun, pointed it at her, and cocked it in front of her children.
What's happening in this King County courtroom is leading to more of these ending up in the police property room. These firearms belong to accused domestic abusers, many of whom tried to hide them from authorities.
So all of these guns were recovered either from a search warrant or by people that served the protection orders.
Sergeant Dorothy Kim of the Seattle Police Department's Domestic Violence Unit is part of a new task force hunting for guns that would have previously gone undetected. What's the likelihood that any of these guns would have ended up in police hands?
None. None. A year ago, none of these guns would have been recovered. We would never have done the search warrant.
This is just about whether you have the guns. That's the only thing this is about.
God is my witness, I don't have it, ma'am.
Okay.
Firearms hearings, like this one, specifically target people who are served with protection orders. The court has ordered them to cease all contact with someone, typically a family member or boyfriend or girlfriend, who filed for the court's protection.
I've tried everything to prove that I don't have any firearms.
The judge must ensure that people served with protection orders are following the part of the law that requires them to turn their guns over to police. That law exists because of the increased danger that domestic violence victims face if their abuser has access to a gun. They're 5 times more likely to be murdered.
Then all of a sudden, I get this phone call. He shot her.
That terrible call to Kathy Gock last year is an example. Her 33-year-old daughter Tabitha was shot in Federal Way, allegedly by her abusive ex-boyfriend.
Apparently, the gun was in a closet, up in his closet in a shoebox.
Experts say getting guns out of an abuser's hands early is key because victims are in the greatest danger right when they leave them. Tabitha's ex, Rashid Mitchell, is accused of murdering her 12 days after she received a protection order against him. How important is it to get guns out of the hands of domestic abusers?
Oh, Tabitha would be alive today. That should be proof right there. Tabitha would have been alive today.
Yet a King 5 investigation in May found the courtroom for firearms hearings nearly empty day after day, even though the calendar posted in the hallway showed dozens of accused abusers scheduled to appear. Our review of court records showed that nearly half of those people simply did not respond to the court's weapons surrender order. The law barring them from possessing guns was being ignored.
And if we do have contact with the victim to get more specific information about when she last saw the firearms.
Chris Anderson, who runs the domestic violence unit in the Seattle City Attorney's Office, has long been concerned about lax enforcement of weapons surrender orders. After our stories this summer, he helped convince King County Executive Dow Constantine and Seattle City Council to pledge $1 million to create the task force that is now piling up guns from weapons surrender orders.
She indicated in the petition that he has a handgun that he keeps in a specific place in the house.
The police and prosecutors on the Regional Firearms Task Force interview victims and witnesses and even obtain search warrants if needed to get an abuser's gun.
He had threatened her with a gun. The firearms are usually loaded. There's been threats to kill, strangulation, rape, stalking.
Instead of relying on the word of accused abusers, the court now hears evidence collected by the task force.
We also have information that there are 7 to 8 other guns at the property where he resides.
Our mission is to ensure that defendants who are subject to protection orders are turning in their firearms and reducing risk to victims.
The result, the rate of guns turned over or seized by police has more than quadrupled since the task force started enforcing the surrender law.
Do you have a gun? Oh, no, I don't have a gun. I mean, who's going to say, oh, yeah, I have a gun, I'll give it to you? But they need to go further. They need to investigate it. They need to find out from the victim if there's a gun.
So that is the kind of thing that's now happening in King County, but probably not anywhere else in Washington. In fact, task force members think there aren't many places in the nation that do this kind of thing, even though possessing guns when you've been served with a domestic violence protection order is against federal law. So even with all we know about domestic abuse and guns, it's a law that still isn't enforced, except hopefully now in King County.
Right. But even if you do lie under oath about having a gun, isn't that a crime? And are these people being prosecuted for perjury?
Well, it is. I think the task force tries to use persuasion first, telling these people, hey, look, we've heard you've got guns, hand them over. But even though the task force is just getting up to speed, they've already charged a couple of people, you're right, with perjury and with illegal possession of guns. So, yeah, they're coming after people now, and I think we'll be seeing more of that in the future.
Right.
Yeah, Chris, thank you so much for that.